We're going to start work on a tree. So first, let me show you a brief video that we made on the STIHL YouTube channel on how to properly start your saw. Two things you never want to do: drop start the chainsaw as Casey's demonstrating here, or throw starting it. Operators can get really hurt using these techniques because they literally have no control over the saw once it starts.
Okay, Louie, let's show them the two-way STIHL recommends. First, you're positioning for starting the chainsaw on the ground.
Casey has a saw sitting on the ground in a clear, flat area. The bar and chain are clear of the ground and there are no objects or obstructions nearby that could come in contact with the bar and chain. He'll slip the toe of his right foot into the opening of the rear handle. His left hand is pressing down on the front handle, his thumb and fingers fully wrapped around the handle, and his elbow is locked. His right hand will grip the starter handle for pulling on the rope.
So this is an excellent and safe way to start your saw when you're in a clear and open area. But in case you're not in a clear open area, you got twigs, brush, or debris, STIHL recommends a second method for starting your chainsaw in a standing position.
First, Casey's going to make sure he has secure footing. He'll position the rear handle of the saw between his legs, just above the knees. He's got a grip on the front handle with his left hand, thumb and fingers wrapped fully around the handle, and his left arm is in a locked position. He'll use his right hand to start the saw. These are the only two methods that STIHL recommends for starting a chainsaw. Give it a little practice, it's not that hard, and you'll be safer doing so.
So we've covered the two recommended starting positions for your chainsaw. Now let's talk about the controls. The first thing you want to do is engage a chain brake. You won't release the brake until the engine starts. If your chainsaw has a purge pump feature, pump the bulb a minimum of 5 times. Don't worry, this won't flood the engine. All you're doing is moving the fuel from the tank to the carburetor and circulating it back to the tank again. If your saw has a decompression valve, usually found on professional saws, press it in. Next, for cold starts, grip the rear handle with your right hand. Depress the throttle trigger interlock and squeeze the throttle trigger. This allows you to move the master control lever to the cold start position. If the saw was just recently run, you may want to put the master control lever into the warm start position. Holding the chainsaw in the correct position, as we just discussed a moment ago, grasp the starter handle and pull until you feel slight resistance. At this point, give the rope a sharp, brisk pull, and then guide the rope back slowly into the starter housing. Two things not to do: don't ever wrap the rope around your hand for starting, and never let the rope snap back to the starter assembly. This will damage the internal parts. Repeat the process of pulling the starter rope until you hear the saw burp or try and start. Now this is important. If you have the master control lever in the cold start position, move to the warm start position now. Don't pull the starter rope one more time until you do this. If you don't and continue to try and start the saw in the cold start position after that initial burp, the very next pull most likely will flood the engine. So you've experienced the burp and you've moved the master control lever to the warm start position. If you have a decompression valve, you need to depress it again. Now you can pull on the starter rope again. Probably only a few times will be needed to start the engine. And this is important. You don't want to accelerate the chainsaw with the chain brake engaged. Release the chain brake and accelerate the chainsaw a few times to warm up the engine. Engage the chain brake and move into your cutting position. Now you're ready to go to work.